Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're tuning in because, wow, we are embarking on a really practical journey today. We're going to master 30, yes, 30 essential business Japanese expressions. If you're gearing up for the BJT, the Business Japanese Proficiency Test, or honestly, if you just want to survive and actually thrive in your daily Japanese office life, well, you're in exactly the right place. We are literally going to walk through a virtual workday together, step by step. Let's get into it.
But right off the bat, I gotta ask you a question. Are you truly ready for the Japanese office? I mean, sure, you might know your basic grammar and everyday vocabulary, but what actually happens when you're suddenly face-to-face with a department manager? How confident are you about jumping into a formal meeting, or reporting a complex issue, or picking up a ringing phone from a super important client? Standard textbook Japanese, yeah, it often leaves out the real-world grit of corporate communication.
Okay, let's dive into this. There is a massive, and I mean massive difference between simply speaking correct Japanese and communicating professionally. Surviving in a Japanese office requires so much more than just hitting the right grammar points. It requires sounding polite, understanding all those subtle nuances of hierarchy, and deeply grasping workplace culture. When you sit down for the BJT, they aren't just testing your flashcard vocabulary. No way! They are testing your ability to seamlessly navigate these highly specific, realistic professional scenarios.
So, to help you master all this, here's our day in the life agenda. We'll start with the Japanese Office Foundation, move into greetings and polite responses, then navigating office communication, followed by phone and email etiquette, and wrap up with passing the BJT exam. All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the Japanese Office Foundation.
Okay, before we even try to memorize a single piece of specific vocabulary, we absolutely must establish the cultural mindset that governs a Japanese workplace. Because honestly, if you don't understand the culture, the words simply won't land with the right impact. It's kind of like having the right key for the wrong door. There are 5 core pillars here. First up is Jikan Omamoru, which means you gotta be strictly punctual. Next is Keigo Otsukau, using respectful language tailored to exactly who you're talking to. Then we have this famously crucial concept, Horenso. This is a mashup of reporting, informing, and consulting with your team and managers basically constantly. Fourth is Aite o Sonchosuru, meaning to deeply, genuinely respect the other person. And finally, Shinrai Kankei o Kizuku, which is all about building long-term trust. Every single phrase we're learning today is basically a tool to uphold these 5 pillars.
Moving right along to Section 2, greetings and polite responses.
With that foundation locked in, let's actually begin our virtual workday. Imagine stepping into the office, the doors slide open, and boom, it's time to interact with your coworkers. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that this single phrase right here is the undisputed heavyweight champion of the Japanese office, Otsukare-sama desu. Literally translated, it kind of just means thank you for your hard work. But in practice, it's a real game changer. It's used as a greeting in the hallway, your opening line for an email, a transition in a meeting, and your sign-off at the end of the day. Seriously, if you only remember one phrase from this entire explainer, absolutely make it this one.
Let's expand that morning repertoire a bit. When you first arrive, throwing out a bright "Ohayo gozaimasu" sets a really positive tone. But listen to this second phrase. Honjitsu mo yoroshiku onegai itashimasu. I look forward to working with you today as well. Using this, it establishes an incredible baseline of teamwork right from the jump. Then we have shitsurei shimasu. Literally, this translates to something like, I am doing a rude thing. But contextually, it's how you say excuse me right before entering a manager's office or lightly interrupting someone. And hey, when your day is finally done, but your coworkers are still typing away, you use the final phrase, osaki ni shitsurei shimasu, essentially politely apologizing for leaving before them.
Okay, so greetings are great, but how do you actually respond when someone gives you a task? Well, here are your essential tools. Shochi shimashita is the standard, highly professional way to say understood, and this brilliantly illustrates how Japanese scales up in politeness. Think about it. If you're talking to an important client or a top executive, you take shochi shimashita and you elevate it to kashikomarimashita, which means certainly. Need to double-check something? Kakuni no itashimasu is your go-to. Need a little more time? Just say shosho omachi kudasai to ask them to wait. And hey, if a mistake happens, and they do, a deep, sincere moshiwake gozaimasen is the formal apology you absolutely need in your back pocket.
Next up, Section 3, Navigating Office Communication. So, we've greeted everyone and accepted our initial tasks. Now it's time to dive deeper into the core workday, tackling the vocabulary you need for meetings and active reporting. Before we start stringing together full sentences, let's quickly equip you with some foundational nouns. Kaisha is your company, and as an employee, you are a shine. When you look up that corporate ladder, you'll be reporting to your bucho, your department manager. You're probably going to spend a huge chunk of your day in a kaigi, which is a meeting. And if you meet someone new, you will absolutely need to exchange your meishi, your business card. Getting these structural nouns memorized makes everything else just flow so much easier.
Now, let's actually put those nouns to work in your meetings and reporting. You kick things off with kaigi o hajimemasu. If you want to direct attention to a handout, use shiryō o goran kudasai. Want to invite discussion? Ask goikan o okikase kudasai. When taking on a task, honjitsu chū ni tai-o itashimasu promises that you're going to handle it today. So the absolutely crucial point is right here with this last one. Joshi ni hokoku itashimasu. I will report it to my manager. Remember that cultural pillar of Horenso we talked about earlier? This specific phrase is exactly how you execute that concept in the real world.
All right, Section 4, Phone and Email Etiquette. You are surviving the internal meetings brilliantly, doing great. But what happens when the outside world reaches out? We're now transitioning into the critical phase where you literally represent your entire company to the public. Mastering these specific phrases is exactly what separates a nervous novice from a trusted business communicator. When that phone rings, answer with a warm, professional, "Oren wa arigatou gozaimasu." If you need to transfer them to someone else, "Shōshō omachi itadakemasu ka" is incredibly polite. If you're swamped and promise to call back, hit them with "Nochihodo gorenraku itashimasu." Over in your digital communications, use "Meru o soshin itashimashita" to let someone know an email is sent. And always follow up with "Go kakunin onegai itashimasu," asking them politely to confirm receipt. These structures, they are your absolute armor for external communications.
Finally, Section 5, Passing the BJT Exam.
Let's move into our final major takeaway for today and see how all this builds together. We've walked through the virtual office, but how does this actually directly impact your test scores? Well, the BJT doesn't just test your ability to memorize abstract grammar rules in a vacuum. No way. It has practical applications set right inside Japanese companies, customer service desks, intense meetings, and those super long email chains. The 30 phrases we've just covered, they are the exact linguistic tools you're going to need to interpret those scenarios correctly. Knowing the difference between shochi shimashita and kashikomarimashita isn't just a piece of trivia. It's literally the key to understanding the relationship dynamics in a test question, which, you guessed it, leads directly to a higher score.
So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Will your daily practice make these essential expressions second nature? Because the secret to Japanese business communication isn't achieving native fluency overnight, it's consistency. Try using just one of these phrases tomorrow. Write them out. Speak them out loud to yourself. Make them a part of your muscle memory. Thank you so much for joining me on this virtual workday. You did absolutely great. Otsukare-sama deshita, and I will see you in our next explainer.